Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this episode 246 of the Treaty Talk podcast. Myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. We'll start this morning after we get the intro out of the way with a disappointing result in Croke Park. When we're not used to the ladies falling to Down in the All Ireland final. We had the second round of the senior, intermediate, and junior hurling championships, the third round in the Premier Intermediate, and this week we have the return of the football championships. So we'll look back at all those games and look forward to this weekend games after the break. So stay tuned for all that and more.
The impression the game you get out of it, what you put into, it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the war court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
As I said in that intro, Matt, it was a disappointing weekend, and we'll get straight into it. We were there together in the press box in the Hogan stand on Sunday morning as the Limerick ladies just fell to Down 1-7-8. That 𝘸𝘵𝘏𝘓 goal proving decisive in the end. Talking to 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘳𝘵𝘪𝘮𝘦 afterwards, as always, he spoke so eloquently and brilliantly, and you could see the disappointment in his face, Matt. And I think it was disappointment that Limerick didn't take their opportunities. Not that they failed to perform, because I think over the course of the game, probably the better team, and I think it was a correspondent said the same thing in the Sunday game on Sunday evening, that the better team probably did lose out, but just missed chances, the story of that game, Matt, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think when 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘳𝘵𝘪𝘮 came into the press room there afterwards, I think his face and his demeanour told everything, and he made no attempt whatsoever to hide and conceal his bitter disappointment. As he pointed out, it's the second final that Limerick have lost this year, that group of girls having lost the Munster B final by 4 points in Mallow to Clare. But Jack, I suppose with to put it into context, I'm absolutely gutted for Graham and for all the girls for the effort that they put in. But you just, I suppose it was a game in which defences were on top and dominated for the most part. But the only goal chance that Down created, they took it. And I suppose that is the difference. Now, we got two very good chances in the space of 4 minutes as we were in, we'll say, in the middle of the second quarter. And no fault to any of the girls. You could see the shot that defender put Roisin Ambrose, put her wide of the goal a bit, and she made a fair attempt, but alas, it went into the side netting. And then we had the one with Caoimhe McGrath when she was put through, I think it was by Cameron O'Leary. And she hooked the ball, and, we were sure that was going into the top corner from our viewpoint, but it just tailed wide at the finish. But there were probably two defining chances, because had one or other of those gone in, Jack, we would have gone in at half-time leading, probably, in all probability. And we would be coming out to play with the wind in the second half. But there was a remarkable similarity in that between the game in the group stages and the game and last Sunday's final, in that in the group stages at Newcastle West, we again played against the Breeze. Now, the Breeze wasn't a huge factor in Croke Park last Sunday, it has to be said. But of course, we're saying that from the comfort of the press box, whereas down on touch and on pitch side, it might have been totally different. But we went in that day in Newcastle West just trailing by a point or two, and again on Sunday trailing by a point. But didn't make the wind count. But the caveat in that one is that I didn't think that the wind was that much of a factor last Sunday. But whatever wind that was there was in favour of Down in the second half. Like basically what you had, Jack, last Sunday in Croke Park, you had two teams that cancelled themselves out from 1 to 15. Like when Limerick were chasing the game after the goal, I thought the Down defence was absolutely immense. You would have to say, like Limerick couldn't really get close into goal. You couldn't say that we really created a goal chance in that last 10 minutes or last 15 minutes. We were a bit dependent, but now Down funneled back in huge numbers. And like once they got their noses in front, I'd say after that it was containment. We'll hold what we have after that. And they became less adventurous because Limerick have very good ball carriers in the like of Debbie Murphy and Cameron O'Leary, and like had Limerick to hit him on the break, they could be in trouble. So it didn't make for good viewing from a football point of view,
fair enough, yeah.
But look, Jack, it was very, very, very disappointing. But I suppose we have to look at it in the context of the whole year and where Limerick are at. And like as I said, apologies for the Gremlins last week. And before we go any further, Jack, they were Cork Gremlins because I was down on Skull Harbour, so on holidays. But this Down team, Jack, just to put it into context, Limerick were in Division 4 of the Football League. Down were in Division 3. Down played their 7 games. They won 5 of them. The only 2 that beat them were Kildare and Clare, who were playing in the intermediate final after us. Yeah. So I'm saying that to contextualise the level of the opposition we were up against. Now, Sligo were also in Division 3, and we beat them in the group stages, and they survived in Division 3. But that'll give you a sense of the magnitude of our task on Sunday. And like we were outsiders going into the final on Sunday, but I thought Limerick, I thought they acquitted themselves very, very, very well. And like you would probably have to say in summary, Jack, that it was an All-Ireland that got away.
Yeah, you'd have to agree in that regard. And sometimes teams just don't show up on finals day, but you couldn't say that about Limerick. As we said at the start, probably the better team. Lost, Down are a good team, but it was disappointing. Limerick seemed to be building in the right direction. Obviously, was it 4 semi-finals in a row? Finally got over the line this year. That's 2 finals this year. The league final last year. I think they're just a win and a final away from really breaking through that glass ceiling. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be last Sunday. But as you said, overall, brilliant year for Limerick to get to those 2 finals.
Yeah, Jack, but before you move from that yourself, you put a very important question, I think, to Graham Shine when you asked him, do you have to lose one to win one, And he spoke about the importance of keeping this group together. And I couldn't agree more because certainly over the last 2 years of Graham's tenure, like that, like Limerick have certainly been going in the right direction, and I think he has built a very, very solid foundation to build on. So, but like he did emphasize the caveat to you will remember about the importance of these girls staying together. Like, and just another just on an aside though, just while it dawned on me. Like I was disappointed, I have to say, Jack, with the amount of support that Limerick had in Croke Park. Like we were completely outnumbered by Down.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd say there was a lot under us in the lower Hogan Sand. I know that's where the lads went, but yeah, like the sound wise, it was down more definitely that bit louder. But look,
mm,
after being in Crow Park probably twice to see the hurlers already this year, it's an expensive day to Dublin. It all comes into that, but definitely the girls deserve probably a bit more support. Those that were there did make their voices heard, but Down did bring a nice support as well on the
they
same
did, they
token.
did. No,
So
I get all, that there was every goodwill to them. There was great support in the Woodlands for the breakfast morning and all that sort of thing, and I get all that. But, I was still a small bit disappointed, even in the precincts of Croke Park before and after the game, Limerick supporters were they were kind of elusive,
yeah, a small bit. I went down to watch the Kildare and Clare game in the Hogan Side, and there was a fair splattering of Limerick fans still dotted around. But as I said, where we were, you couldn't really see down below us. I think that's where a lot of the Limerick tickets were, and I think some people moved from wherever they were over to the Hogan. But there was still a decent sport for the girls, and they played well enough to win the game. But unfortunately, that's how sport goes. Someone has to lose, and it's a pity it was Limerick. But as we said there, the building has been done, the groundwork has been done. If the team can stay together, there should be a lot more better days ahead for the team. So overall, it's a well done to 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘳 and the ladies team for a very, very good year. Just missed out on the grand prize, but they'll be back. There's no doubt about that, Matt. I don't think.
No doubt about it. And the key is for them to stay together. And there are a lot of very exciting young players coming through, and they needed the experienced heads like the likes of 𝘤𝘰𝘦𝘭𝘴, who I thought was outstanding on Sunday. Roisin Ambrose was just immense, led from the front, and the experience of Cathy Mee, Amy Ryan, these people, we need these to bring along the younger players. And I think even at this remove, it's very, very important, Jack, that girls like that. Now, I know they've given fantastic service, and you cannot argue with it. But I would be hoping that those girls would stay on board. Real leaders. I'm talking about the very experienced crew. And we like 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘳. He has the foundation laid, and it's a question of building on it now.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what they'll hope to do in 2024. I know the club championship is back soon, so we'll be able to see them for their clubs in action very soon. But well done for the year they had. The pity they missed out on the grand prize, but they'll be back. There's no doubt about that. One thing that did come back over the last 2 weeks, Matt, and we spoke about last week, was the senior hurling championship, and all the hurling championships will stay with the top tiers for the time being, because it's just there's so many games going on everywhere. It's very hard to, I suppose, nail down and get all results. But I suppose the shock really of the round probably came on Thursday night in Kilmallock, the meeting of Doon and Patrickswell. Now, both of us were watching the hand Kilmallock game, so we didn't see it, but obviously would have got reports. But Doon, Matt, you couldn't write him off, even with all their injuries and all the problems there, to come back and beat a Patrickswell side that were flying 300 years, beat the 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘳 in the first round. But Doon just showed you can't write them off.
No, you certainly can't. And just talking of Doon, Richie English had his operation yesterday. And if you're listening, Richie, let's hope everything went well for you. And Mikey O'Brien is due to have it in early September. And they're two huge losses. Now, I understand that Chris Thomas, Tommy Hayes, and Barry Murphy are closing in on a return for the next round. But there is 5 key players, and there are others missing. So it's huge credit to Doon, and huge credit to Doon to the squad that they have. And there's certainly, after Patrickswell beating the 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘳 in the first round, people, including ourselves, could be excused for writing off Doon's chances against Patrickswell, who obviously were on a high. But by God, they found resolve from somewhere. Now, I saw something similar about, and I've mentioned this in the past, about in the league final this year. And I said to myself, maybe this is the turning point for Doon getting their hands on senior hurling silverware. Where Kilmallock raced into a 1-6 to no score lead, but they clawed it back, and eventually won the hurling match. Now, Dean Coleman, who was captain that day, is another man that's missing as he's gone abroad. So, and they were shot a whole raft of players that day as well. But it will give you a sense of the depth in the squad. Now, obviously, the Kilmallock result will be a huge disappointment in the championship, because in terms of scoring difference, it lets them behind the 8 ball somewhat. But I don't think they have, in terms of qualifying at this stage, I think they have little to worry about. But the hand in the next round will be an important game for them. But full credit to Doon. It's like I didn't see the game like yourself, and I'm only reading reports and listening to second-hand reports and all that sort of thing. But by all accounts, they were worthy of their win, and nobody can take that from them. And it's happy days for Doon. They're back in the championship. Which their championship hopes looked a bit bleak 7 days earlier, and here, that's the vagaries of what can happen at this level. But it's just one game, but they're off the mark. If they have some of the key players back now, there's some that won't be back this year. They certainly, Doon will be a force.
Yeah, and they just seem to produce players every year. It was Donald Coughlin the last day with 5 points from play for the teenagers. So they've lads coming through to replace these players, and it's very rare that they have a full deck to choose from. I know, was it Richie and Barry missed the 2020 championship campaign? I think Dara might even be missing as well. So they get it done regardless of who's there. Another team that got it done, Matt, was Kilmallock. They beat a hand 119 to 112 after demolishing Doon the previous week. Wasn't the best performance from Kilmallock. I think Fintan O'Connor will be delighted that they still got over the line against a hand who were, full value for their lead for all the first half. For a lot of the second half, they stayed with them, but Kilmallock showed their class down the home straight, and only team with 2 wins from 2. I know we both had picked them at the start of the year to be the last one standing, and it'll be a long slog to get there, but so far so good for Kilmallock.
Also, so far so good, and I suppose the second win really puts them in a position, Jack, where they're in pole position now to make it to the semi-finals, even at this stage. But they have challenges coming down the road as well. They have Patrick's Well, they have 𝘠𝘱𝘰, and they have 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘦 But I saw the game on Limerick GA TV, and I was very impressed with Kilmallock in the second half, I'd have to say, Jack. Now, you're right when you say that a hand probably dictated the terms of engagement in the first half, but Kilmallock were coming into it late in the first half, if you recall, got a couple of points, brought him really within touching distance. But I thought the Kilmallock work rate in the second half was absolutely huge. The goal scored by Gavin O'Mahony, a fine goal it was. It certainly was a turning point. Now, I think Kilmallock had got the run on a hand before they lost the player to a second yellow card. But, it was the type of test, I'd say, Jack, that Fintan O'Connor would have been hoping for after the game against Doon. He certainly would have wanted his players brought back down to earth after that, because, they were entitled to be on a huge high after that first round victory and the manner of the first round victory. But it was the type of game that he would have liked, I'd say, to, welcome to the real world type of thing.
Yeah. It was a good performance, I think, overall in the grand scheme of things. And just at this early stage, it's just important to get wins, because we've seen everyone else has suffered a loss except for Kilmallock. So we know how slippy in nature the championship is. So for them to get 2 from 2 and to be, as you said, nearly into the semi-finals already is a huge boost. And a hand similarly after beating KP the first day, although it was a loss to Kilmallock, they can look up towards the table because KP were beaten by the 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘦𝘭𝘴 at a game that we both saw as well. I don't think the 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘦 were at their best, near their best, but all they need to do was to get back on track. And when you have players like Adrian Breen and Peter Casey that can get you 5 points apiece in a game like that, that was a major difference between KP and the 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘦, is that Killarney Palace found their scores harder to come by, in the forward ranks, whereas the 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘦 had those superstars to call upon. But again, Shane O'Neill will be happy just to get that win after practice. Well, they're not flying it, but again, a team you couldn't rule out going all the way. And without Will, they have Dempsey only for 15 minutes, maybe no Jerome Boylan, that they have their injury worries as well. So a banana skin was navigated pretty emphatically, I suppose, by the 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘦.
It was, Jack. It was, and even though they were below their best, they were still impressive. And having seen both of their games this year, again on Limerick GA TV, they seem to be going in the right direction. And come, and I've little or no doubt, but they'll make the knockout stages of the championship. And come that, Jack, I think that it'll be a different 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘦 you'll see. And of course, they by that stage they would be hoping to have William O'Donoghue back among their ranks and possibly Jerome Boylan. So William O'Donoghue's a huge loss to the 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘦. He'd be a huge loss to Limerick, a huge loss to any team. And we can see his versatility in the way that he slotted in for Limerick at centre half back. So if you lose a player of that calibre, it's a huge loss, especially around the middle of the field where William O'Donoghue tends to dictate things. And but yeah, I was impressed with the 𝘠𝘱𝘰𝘦, and with the caveat that they're not at their best yet, and there's a good few notches to come in them. But like they have a couple of newcomers introduced there, like Wayne Kearns, JJ Carey, and all those, and they're bedding in nicely into the senior team, Jack, and they will give Shane O'Neill options as the year goes on. So look, it's business as usual. Now, I think you mentioned it in commentary, Jack, about Kildimo-Pallaskenry being in a new space, in that they have now lost back-to-back matches. Yeah, I think it's something that probably hasn't happened since 2016 actually, in fact, I'd say. So it's a new space for them, and like whilst the 3 weeks will be of great value to most clubs, unfortunately from the Kildimo-Pallaskenry, they will be involved. A lot of their players are going to be involved in football championship this weekend and the weekend after. So there will be no let up for them now. I thought that they'd hit the ground running when it would come to the championship, the hurling championship, in that they had so much work done in the football championship. They had the possibility of second year syndrome being caught with a relegation fight. They had that put to bed, and they were looking like to be poised to be already qualified, or very nearly qualified for the knockout stages of the championship, which is the first target of any team. So the difficult days are lying ahead, I think, for Kildimo-Pallaskenry. They have difficult games, Doon, Kilmallock, Patrickswell. They don't come much bigger than that, but where else would you want to be playing your hurling? They will learn from it, and basically, Jack, at this stage, they need probably 3 points to survive.
Well, they definitely need at least 3 points to survive, and as you said, you mentioned those 3 games. It's hard to see where the points will come, but that'll be the challenge for them. And as a dual club, you mentioned there that the football is going to be it's not going to be no easy weeks for them because most of their big players are involved. But look, we've seen over the years with KP, they've upset the odds plenty of times, so we won't rule them out yet. But I suppose the battle then to replace whoever comes down in Group 1, you know, we saw it firsthand on Sunday afternoon in Skeeton, another game on Limerick JTV, Adair versus Ballybrown, and honours even there, and the two teams that look most likely to get back up into Senior A, they've both played there in recent years. I suppose it probably wasn't the most surprising result. You had gone for Ballybrown by a point. I don't think you weren't far off it, turning a point off it. They're looking the two teams that'll come out of it at this early juncture.
They are, and are they probably even looking more like it now, even, you know?
Yeah, they avoided defeat.
Look, there's a lot of hurling. There's a lot of hurling to be played yet, Jack. Muglet St. Paul's are there or thereabouts as well on 3 points, you know. So there's a lot of hurling to be played. But you know, when I was tipping Ballybrown to win by a point, I just couldn't decide between the two of them, Jack. It was as simple as that, and the fact that the possibility of Declan Hannon not playing was probably tilted me towards Ballybrown, but both clubs are in a very, very strong position at the moment, as Munglet St. Paul's, as I said.
Yeah,
you know, they got a draw with 𝘕𝘱𝘰𝘪𝘮𝘭𝘴, so they have a win and a draw in their 2 games, and so like a lot will depend here on the third round now.
Moving down.
It could do an awful lot of sorting out now. 𝘕𝘱𝘰𝘪𝘮𝘭𝘴 are still in the mix by virtue of picking up that point. Monaleen are certainly in the mix by virtue of their huge win over South Liberties, Jack. But you have to fear at this stage, as we feared last week, for South Liberties. They've suffered 2 huge defeats. Now they have been, you know, decimated with players retiring and players leaving and what have you. And it's going to be a very tough road for them ahead, because you know, I was just studying the fixtures there during the week. Like they still have Ballybrown, Adair, 𝘕𝘱𝘰𝘪𝘮𝘭𝘴 to come up. And like, as you were wondering there a while ago about Kildimo, Pallaskenry, you wonder where the points are there. The survival points. I think it's going to be very, 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 very difficult for them, you know. So whether they can regroup in the 3 weeks, and you know, I don't know, but it looks like it's going to be a very challenging season for South Liberties.
Yeah, it appears that way. I think that's only fair too. Heavy enough beans, 18 points and 16 points, but they'll probably target 𝘕𝘱𝘰𝘪𝘮𝘭𝘴 now, who are on a point at the moment. If they can beat them and there's no results elsewhere, it could be enough. But they're definitely looking down the table as opposed to last year's semi-final. But as you said, that round 3 will prove crucial across all the grades, Matt. In the Limerick Hurling Championships, we said we couldn't get up to all of them. We'll go to the Premier Intermediate before we go there. A special mention to Willie O'Mara from Skeeton. He scored 232, Matt, in the first 2 rounds of the championship. 210 of that has been from play. So from play and place balls, he's been unreal. So he obviously has an All-Ireland winners medal. So I think it's important to highlight that. I know it's my own club and I see it firsthand, but Willie has been absolutely sensational so far for Skeeton. But going into the Premier Intermediate,
well, I agree with you there. I agree with you there, and but I say, well done, Willie. You know, like that. To me, Willie O'Mara is an absolutely fine hurler, absolutely. But of course, you've Oisin O'Farrell as well. Like, so, you have a twin threat up there.
Don't be giving away the trade secrets there.
I think Skeeton are snaking up now, Jack. When we come to discussing the Junior A championship, I expect there'll be ones that I notice you have no plans in the immediate future to discuss the Junior A championship. I think we'll bring it on the agenda for next week.
No, we'll keep that in the back pocket for the time being. I know the boys are doing a lot of good work, but in the Premier Intermediate match, we single it out every year as a championship that always delivers. And I've the table here beside me. Bruff obviously have gone 3 from 3, and Cappamore have lost all their games, but every other team has a win. Effin, Na Piarsaigh, and Blackrock are on 4 points. Then you've Glenroe, Newcastle West, and Drumnadlacca on 2 points. Everyone is beating everyone again, Matt. It's the championship that is so difficult to call. And, fair play to Na Piarsaigh that they started with 2 wins from 2. But Bruff, even without Sean Finn, appeared to be going well. But this is a championship that could change in a second, like we saw last year. There's a lot of change at the top. But in the grand scheme of things, Matt, what have you made of the Premier Intermediate Championship so far as we go into round 4 of that? Obviously, and there's Bruff have been the standout team, but the other 3 semi-final places and that one as well could go anywhere, really.
Well, Jack, if it's a health warning to Bruff after 4 games last year, Glenroe had 7 points and failed to make the semi-final.
Yeah, so there's your warning straight away.
I hate bringing it up, but that's the fact now. Glenroe have struggled this year. They've lost their first 2, but got a win against Cappamore the last time out, which was hugely important actually in the context of the entire championship. But you have to hand it to Bruff, as you said, without Sean Finn, and also without Graham Whelan, who's gone abroad. Full credit to Bruff. I suppose. This year, Jack, believe it or not, Bruff are fielding an intermediate hurling team, a junior A hurling team, and a junior B hurling team. For the first time, they're fielding 3 teams, which will tell you that Bruff and of course they won the under-17 A championship under-19 A championship last night. They won the under-19 Premier last year. So what it tells me is that they're successfully transitioning players from underage to adult.
Yeah.
We saw the team that they had last year that reached the All-Ireland Junior B final, and normally Junior B would be a mixture of players weighted towards coming in the twilight years of their career, mixed with a few young fellas. But actually, in the Bruff case, it was the other way around.
Yeah.
It was mainly young players with a spattering of experience. So, it doesn't surprise me that there's a huge pool of players in Bruff. Let's face it, and they have been successful, Jack, in keeping these players and as I said, transitioning them from underage to adult hurling, which is a trick in itself and is hugely important. So
yeah, they're definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah, and so are Effin going in the right direction, Jack. Now they've suffered 1 defeat already, but they're definitely going in the right direction. If you take a team that has Nicky Quaid, Fergal O'Connor, Paddy Donovan as your backbone, and Tommy Quaid, who's playing out of his skin at the moment, absolutely playing fantastic at the moment. Now they lost Jack Quaid, but if you take a team that has players of that quality to lead the way, you're in a good place. Now Na Piarsaigh lost the last game to Bruff. Now they beat Glenroe in the first round. They beat Cappamore in the second round, courtesy of a last-minute goal. But Na Piarsaigh have done enough. With Na Piarsaigh going up, Jack, even though Na Piarsaigh probably don't look at it this way, and I suppose that's why they're so successful. The first target when you move up is to consolidate. And with 2 wins from 2 after going up, they have consolidated.
Yeah.
They have ensured that they will be playing Premier Intermediate hurling next year, barring something unforeseen altogether happens, which is unlikely.
Yeah.
And the probability the probability is, Jack, that they will be playing in the semi-finals.
Yeah, probably, but you wouldn't rule out any team going on a run. I saw Newcastle on Thursday pick up their first win, and it was a really complete performance from Jimmy Lee's team. Now, again, they have a lot of boys playing dual, so it was timely to get that win. But you couldn't rule out any of those teams going on a sort of a run. And we saw with Glenroe last year, Matt. You said it, and you don't need any reminding of what happened there. But it's a competition.
Well, I don't need reminding. I don't need reminding of the run they went on.
Yeah, it's a competition where you just need to be consistent. A run at the start or end mightn't be enough. If you can consistently just keep ticking away and getting points throughout and get into top four, anything can happen from there. But it's a championship that always delivers, Matt, and it's important to pay respect to that. Obviously, the intermediate and junior are as important to all those teams in it, but there's just so much going on at the moment that we'll get to those maybe as we get into the latter rounds and permutations start to become clear and all that jazz. But that's the senior hurling and Premier Intermediate Championship so far. I
think it's very important we get to the junior hurling quickly before Stephen will have it won.
I wouldn't mind it, but there's a long way yet. I suppose we didn't ask you, Matt, beforehand who would win the Premier Intermediate, but if you were to call it now with 3 rounds played.
Well, I'd probably give you the same answer that I'd have given you 3 rounds back. Is that I despite the loss of Sean Finn, I fancy Bruff.
Yeah, there's a lot of good work being done at the club.
For the reasons that I said, Jack, and I've seen it at first hand. I watch him an awful lot, as you know, I think it's simply incredible that Bruff have gone really from fielding maybe one team and to fielding 3 teams and the Junior B team, played in the championship and only lost narrowly to Camogue Rovers in the first round, and it was Camogue Rovers' first team. Now I know it was a parish derby, but the Junior Bs are not going to be making up numbers.
No, they're a team going the right direction. I think it's between themselves and maybe Effin, with the scoring threat of Paddy Donovan can be so crucial this grade. And they pushed Monaleen all the way last year, but so did Bruff. But again, you couldn't rule out any team in that championship making their mark. But you briefly mentioned there, Bruff won the A championship last night, under 19s. Monaleen won this Premier against Munger, a really fine performance by Monaleen, captained by Joseph Fitzgerald, who obviously started for the 20s last year. And Newcastle West won the Premier under-19 football against Father Cases. So all those lads you would have seen in action for their clubs, but more silverware for Bruff, Monaleen and Newcastle West.
Yeah, I just put it into context for you, Jack, that last year, and that you've heard me saying it in this medium before, that one of the best games that I saw last year was the Premier under-19 final, in which Bruff defeated Monaleen. And Monaleen have come back this year and gone one better, and congratulations to them. Now, Bruff were graded A this year, and they've gone and won it, and they have beaten 𝘕𝘱𝘰𝘪𝘮, and congratulations to them also, and to Newcastle West for winning the Premier under-19 football championship. They beat Father Cases last night in the final, 110-18. Jack, but speaking of the Premier of the under-19 football championship as a whole, I'm a small bit alarmed and more than a little worried, Jack, about the number of walkovers that are in that competition. Now, there are a number of walkovers also in the under-19 hurling competition, but not to the same extent. But there was a whole raft of walkovers, Jack, as you well know, in all levels of the under-19 football competition. I think there was 6 fixtures one particular evening, and I think there was only 1 played or 2 played.
Yeah.
That's unsustainable. in like that competition, and I'll be coming to the intermediate football when we go on to football in a minute. That's something that needs to be looked at, because I don't think that we're getting a full buy-in from the clubs on that, because number of clubs that are not taking part that maybe should be taking part, and other clubs then giving walkovers and all that sort of a thing. But I get an awful lot of it, Jack, because you have it running practically concurrently with the senior football championship, and some of these lads would be playing senior football. You have it running concurrently with the under-17 football championship, and lads would be playing in both of those. So I get all that, but it worries me about the competition. Like if we are to have a competition, and this is no criticism whatsoever of the structures, but I don't think we're getting the level of buy-in that for the competition. And I think whether it should be rescheduled or what's the answer, I don't know. That's for people above my pay grade. But I think it's something to be looked at, Jack. And I'm just putting you on notice that I'll be coming to the Intermediate Football Championship in a minute. When we get to it, and I think you know what I'm going to be talking about.
Well, we can go there now, but just on that, the under-19s, like I'm involved with 19s in our own club, and it's very hard there's a lot of lads that are under 17 that are big game players for us, and they're playing 17s football, 17s hurling, 19s hurling, and 19s football all in a good end period of time. I thought that under 18, under 16, and 21s worked perfectly, and I think we are going back that way in Limerick. I can't say for definite if we are or not, but I heard that's the way it's going. And for me, that system worked better. I don't remember when I was playing that I was burned out or anything like that, but I feel like a lot of players are taking on a huge burden that they're out every night of the week. They're playing soccer as well. I know that's gone to midweek too, and you don't want lads falling out of the game and falling out of love with the game that early. So I think it's something that definitely needs to be looked at. First of all, is when the grades are playing. Even if you played the under-19s hurling and football later in the year, before the 21s, maybe 2 months beforehand, and played the 17s earlier in the year or something. I don't know. There just seems to be too much for lads to do at this time of the year. But while we're on about fixtures and stuff, Matt, another thing we'll notice this weekend is the amount of games on at the same time. I know that's something that you want to talk about. Even in the senior championship, there's a game Thursday, 4 Saturday, and 1 Sunday. The 4 on Saturday, one is at 4:30 and one's at 7. You'd probably be able to get to 2 of those, but you wouldn't get to more than 2 games, if even. And it's just, I know there's an awful lot that has to be done to put fixtures in place, and teams have second teams and they can't play the same night and things like that. But even spread them out more, a couple Thursday, a couple Friday, majority Saturday and Sunday, then Sunday morning, Sunday evening. It's just, you just want to see as many games as possible, Matt, I think is what we're crying out for.
Yeah, Jack, I'll come back to that, because I wasn't quite finished, and you made a very valid point there, and you are actually substantiating the point that I made about the under-19 competition. And I asked the question, Jack, who made the decision to have these competitions? Who made the decision that we'd go from 21 to 20? Who made the decision that we'd go from under 18 to under 17? Who made the decision that under 20 players couldn't play senior? David Clifford didn't play never played under 20 or 21 for his county. Cathal O'Neill missed an All-Ireland final last year. Who made those decisions?
Couldn't tell you.
It wasn't the clubs made those decisions.
No.
Some August body above in Croke Park made the decisions. They wouldn't be seen. They wouldn't be seen at a club match.
Yeah.
You certainly know how to fire under me anyway, because the clubs have got to take back ownership of the GAA, Jack.
Yeah.
And
that
was the basis on which this great organisation was founded on, and it has been hijacked and kidnapped by bureaucrats.
Yeah. the decision just seems to be made, and that's it, and no one seems to question it. But they do need to be questioned because I think they were done to stop player burnout, but the way things are going, I think players are playing more games than ever before, especially younger lads, and they have other things going on in their life as well, so it's just very difficult for them.
Yeah, Jack, player burnout is a reality, but it's a fallacy in this particular one, because if you if you take the under 20 and player burnout, why did they change it to a round robin? If they were concerned about player burnout. So
yeah, I think the intercounty. I think it may be at an intercounty level. They're played at a different time of year, so you're not really playing much at that time. I think during the summer, the clubs, there's just too much going on with club players at the moment. And then if you factor in the lads that played intercounty already this year, they have so much played. It's definitely something that needs to be looked at. Those competitions are kind of coming to an end now, so we should have 7 or 8 months at least to just get them right, and maybe just set aside times in the years, and parents and families, even lads on holidays, families are, if their child has a big game, they mightn't be able to go, or they might have to get someone to look after them. It's just a lot going on for, I suppose, players that are between 16 to 19 this time of year. But there's a lot going on everywhere, Matt. And there was another point raised there on the fixtures, and that's just, it was 2 points.
I wanted to come to it, Jack, and you made a very good point, and I think you outlined it. You outlined it exactly as it is, and I'm meeting an awful lot of discontent around the county, not just about this weekend, Jack. There were people very, very angry last week that the Kilmallock-Ahane game was pitted on the same night as Doon and Patrick's Well. Now, I know that there are games that have to go on the same night. I get all that. But take this weekend, for instance, and the Senior Football Championship. 1 game on Thursday night, 4 games on Saturday night, 1 game on Sunday. What is wrong with Friday night? What is wrong with having 2 games on Sunday? It's absolutely ridiculous. I took a very angry call this week about it, and was telling me that I should be writing and doing this, that, and the other thing about it. And I said I'd bring it up in Treaty Talk.
Yeah, I understand. Sometimes teams can be tied into, they have 2 teams, and they obviously can't play in the same night, and they mightn't want to play them back to back. But as we said, if you play maybe 1 game, Thursday isn't great for a lot of teams, but if you play Thursday, maybe 1 or 2 games on Friday, 1 or 2 games Saturday, and you could have an early game Sunday and a night game Sunday night. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to put the fixtures together. I understand it's extremely difficult. There's so many fixtures between all the grades, but I think we'd love to see them spread out more evenly across the weekend. It's just people want to see GA and Limerick that much that they don't want them to be clashing. I know I love going to see other teams play, but if Ballysteen are playing, that's the game I'm going to be at, and everything else will be missed. As a result, you're probably the same. You just want to see as many games as possible. I don't think people mind Friday night games. Maybe the players, it mightn't be great if they're working, but a lot of players work shift work and things like that. So as long as they know well in advance, I don't think it makes much odds 2 players when they're playing. But I think for us, we just want to see more accessibility to these games and be able to see as many games as possible. And I think people that have got onto you have the same idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And you meet people, you go to a match and you meet people, and they say, "Oh, look, I'd love to be at that other game as well," and all that sort of thing. Now, I understand that there are clashes that cannot be avoided. But by God, we've 6 games. We've Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we plonk 4 of them in on against each other.
Yeah. Look, we'll just have to highlight it, and hopefully the powers that be can rectify it. This isn't calling out anyone for doing something. It's just to let it know that people want to see as many games as possible. And while we're on the kind of not ranting stage, but while we're on about these, the intermediate championship is something that you wanted to go to, Matt, before we get into the games themselves. just the intermediate championship.
Yeah, I'm disappointed, Jack, with the intermediate championship, and I said it a lot of times last year, and I said it particularly in the context of 𝘚𝘱𝘰𝘫𝘓𝑗𝑐, who during the group stages last year got 2 walkovers. Where it's for the second year in a row we have a club pulling out of the intermediate football championship. Rough pulled out last year, Father Casey's have pulled out this year. It throws the whole thing into disarray. It means that there is no relegation. That's the upshot of it. There was no relegation last year because the team that pulls out is automatically relegated. Father Casey's are automatically relegated this year. Now, there are a couple of clubs in the championship, Jack, and you will have to agree with me, that are really, really struggling. You know, for which relegation mightn't have been the end of the world. You know?
Yeah. I don't think anyone sets out to be relegated, but
no,
I know what you mean.
But you know, there are 1 or 2 clubs now in the championship that are well short of it, and you look at the tables, and it'll tell you very quickly what I'm talking about. And they, even though relegation would have been an opportunity, and look, it's very, very hard to talk about merits of relegation because it's such a negative thing, but relegation would possibly suit them. It would give them an opportunity to regroup and rebuild. But now they're confronted with having to play intermediate football again next year, and it's you know. So I think, you know, we've learned lessons now over the last 2 years, and I think we've got to put something in place, Jack, to ensure that it won't happen a 3rd year.
Yeah, that's the thing. Look, you don't want to see any team losing or giving walkovers and things, and some teams aren't in a place to be fielding brilliant teams, but you'd like just to see, can you field a team, or let it know before the championship that you can't field a team, or just not to be pulling out. But look, I know teams, even for Father Casey this year, I know an awful lot of players have gone abroad and things, you know, but it's just disappointing, and it affects obviously the relegation side, but the promotion side as well. You know, 𝘚𝘱𝘰𝘫𝘓𝑗𝑐 got 2 walkovers last year. Teams that get walkovers, every team in Group 2 is going to get a walkover this year at least. But anyways, I think it's just important to say it. But I don't begrudge anyone that gets out of that intermediate championship, because we've seen how difficult it is to get out. You know, it's really, really competitive at the top. It's extremely competitive. Even looking at Group 1, you know, you have 𝘠𝘬𝘠𝑚, Drum, Rakiel, and Ger Griffins. They're only vying for 3 spots. One of the favourites will be gone before we get into the knockout stages. But in Group 2, it's probably a bit more linear. But we'll get into the senior football, Matt, because that's I suppose the bread and butter of the football side. Again, you'd love to go through all the grades, but we are tied for time and just resources to be able to see all these competitions. So before we get into it, actually, we'll do our predictions as we go along, as we do the previews. Last week, Matt, the draws threw us a small bit, as did Doon's result. We both win Kilmallock, Nap, Monaleen. I said Kilmallock by 7 points, so their late flurry got me the extra 2 points there. But you're still way out in front after that stellar, I think was it 2nd week, where you got 3 results bang on the money. So that's the state of play in our predictions. As I said, we'll do the football predictions as we go along. Anything to say on last weekend first?
I know, sure. You know, it's early days in the table, Jack, and you heard about early ripe, early rotten, you know.
Yeah, I suppose if you got the situation where you had a Ballybrown and Dare and couldn't choose either way, would you go with the draw next time around, or it's very hard to call a draw?
We'll see what will happen in the meantime, Jack. That's a long way down the road.
We could have the draw in the football this weekend, but as always, we'll start with Group 1, Matt, and I'll start with them as they're looking at me on the screen here. Saturday evening, 6 o'clock, Ula versus Father Casey's in Ballybrown. Obviously, Ula are looking for a first win. Father Casey's got off the mark the last time around. Casey's are decimated by, people emigrating and things like that, but would be still the favourites, Matt, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, they'd be slight favourites, and this one is going to be tight, Jack, because Ula have been very, very competitive. I saw Ula in the first round, and they were very, very unlucky to lose to St. Kieran's, who were just after being crowned county league champions. So I think their other game was they suffered a defeat to Kildima Pallaskenry, I think, again a narrow defeat. So I think Ula will be very, very competitive in this one for the simple reason that now, Matthew, I think Father Casey's are going to win it. Now, I saw Father Casey's in the second round against Clahan, and they both scant resemblance, as you mentioned already, Jack, to the team that was beaten in the semi-final last year. So it's one thing losing players, Jack, but they've lost absolutely key players, hugely important players. Like they lost to Newcastle West in the first round, but they bounced back in the second round, beat Clahan. Now, Clahan are not in a good position this year. They're struggling, and they too have lost players, and we'll be coming to them in a minute. But Jack, I'm going for Father Casey's to win this one by 3.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. Everything you said about Father Casey's and decimated injury, I am also going to go with him, despite that. Even getting to that minor 19s final, Matt, they're nearly there every single year. Our Father Casey's, they just produce players. Some of them don't make the step up, but even if they can get 2 or 3 every year, it makes them formidable. Ula then we spoke in the first rounds, are without 2 of their best players, Josh and Alan Daly, and it just makes it very difficult for them. So I do agree with you there on Casey's. I'm going Casey's by 4. I don't think it'll be one-sided, but I do think that the Westmen will have enough to get through there and move a step closer to the knockout stages. And speaking of knockout stages, the game on Saturday at 7 in that group between Kildima Pallaskenry and St. Kieran's could have huge ramifications on the layout of the top 3, Matt. KP come into the game with 2 wins from 2, but have obviously been beaten in successive rounds in the hurling, and we spoke about the layover of players between the hurling and the football. St. Kieran's did lose a game, but that did come against Newcastle, who we'd probably expect to top the group. Kieran's won the league, but it's a really, really intriguing game. It's on Niskeeton at 7 for anyone that can get there. I'll let you call it first because it could go either way.
I saw the game between them last year, Jack, and Kildima Pallaskenry did everything but win the football match. No, Kildima Pallaskenry this year they've had 2 wins over Ula and Clahan, and St. Kieran's had a win over Ula, but lost very, very narrowly to Newcastle West on a night in which they were minus John Hayes and Dara Tracy, which should be 2 of their huge players. So should they have those back on board, it will be hugely important. I'm just wondering, Jack, about Kildima Pallaskenry, and I'm just wondering that, can losing become contagious? The disappointing run that the hurlers have to date, will it carry over to the football? Obviously, they will be trying to regroup, get back, and the prize at the end of the day for Kildima Pallaskenry is very clear cut, Jack. Win and they're into the knockout stages. And whilst for St. Kieran's, it's can they afford to lose a second? And in what is a fairly tough group, they could be battling to stay afloat in the championship. I'm going for Kieran's to win by 2 points, Jack.
Yeah, it's an intriguing game, Matt. It could go either way. You spoke about being contagious. Like KP, obviously winning was contagious for them for so long, but how will those losses impact him? Like Dara Tracy, John Hayes are huge losses for Kieran's. From what I heard, I don't think they'll be back. For the sake of the championship, you'd like to see them back, players that ilk. But it's one that I'd be siding for a draw. But I think Kieran's will just have enough, and I'm going to go Kieran's by a single point. But I wouldn't rule out a draw here, and I don't think you would either. It's probably one of the closer matchups on paper over the entire weekend is this game in Askeaton on Saturday night, and one I'm definitely looking forward to. Hopefully we'll come back from Ballygran with a win and we can sit back in comfort and watch what's going on in Group 1. But finishing out Group 1 on Sunday afternoon in Askeaton as well is Newcastle West versus... Oh, we lost Matt there. Lost you for a second there, Matt, but you seem to be coming back in there. You're just loading. On Sunday afternoon, Newcastle West versus Claghon in Askeaton at 1 o'clock. Of all the games in the group, I think this is the most cut and dry. Again, Newcastle have had a lot of hurling done over the last 2 weeks, but they're a team that just knows how to win in the group stage, Matt. So I'm going to go Newcastle by 5 before you get into yours. I think Newcastle will win.
I'm going for a Newcastle West win. Now, I haven't seen Newcastle West this year, but I have seen Claghon, and I'd be a bit worried for Claghon. They've lost a number of key players to immigration and to injury and what have you, and it's beginning to take its toll now. They have been involved in hurling as well, as they're in the Junior A hurling championship, Jack. But it's very, very hard to see anything here but a Newcastle West win, and I'm going for Newcastle West by 4, Jack.
Newcastle West by 4, and that would give them 3 out of 3, and they'd be through anyway.
They would be through. They would definitely be through, and a huge game, Jack, could be in round 4. Depending on the results on Sunday, were Ula and Claghon at the weekend, were Ula and Claghon to lose again for a third time, it will be make or break when they meet in round 4.
Yeah, true. That would be your relegation decider because you have the head-to-head.
It would be a relegation decider, but look, there's football to be played in the meantime,
Yeah, there's football. There's a lot to be played, and going into Group 2, there's 3 games, and we start on Thursday night with the meeting of Monaleen and the Piershig in Claghon at 7 o'clock. First game of the round, Matt. Monaleen the Piershig got off to win and start in round 1, lost in round 2. Monaleen did it the opposite way, lost it there, and then beat Ballylanders just barely. It's a tight one. It's a battle of city rivals. Monaleen are going to be favourites on paper, but I think it'll be very close. What do you think?
Didn't the Piershig win the first round, Jack?
Yeah, unfortunately. Not that only because of who they played, nothing against the Piershig, but anyone that beats Ballysena is going to be unfortunate in my eyes. But yeah, very comprehensive in the first round. Obviously ran into Adair, who just don't lose in the group stage in the second round. So it'll be interesting to see. They won't have anyone that played senior hurling. They might have a couple that played Premier Intermediate, so it's not, it's still a really high standard of hurling, but like Monaleen, they're pretty much 2 separate sides, the football and hurling. So the last 2 weeks won't have much bearing on this game. But tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very tight, but Monaleen were very, very lucky to beat Ballylanders in the second round, Jack.
Yeah.
Extremely lucky. And having said that, they were very unlucky to lose to Adair in the first round.
Yeah.
So the pointers here for me are towards Monaleen, and we have said so often in the past about how they're notoriously slow starters in the championship, and the Piershig hit the ground running with their first game back with a win over Ballysteen. But a game against a team of the quality of Adair in the second round wasn't the ideal opportunity to build on a first round win. So we now what's alarming from the 𝘕𝘱 in that second round game. They only scored 4 points in the entire game, and they didn't score at all for, was it the last 40 minutes?
Yeah, 40
So
minutes.
to me that would be alarming. It's a city derby, city pride. I'm going for Monaleen by 3, Jack.
Monaleen by 3. Well, I had flaunted with the idea of having a draw at some stage, and I'm going to put it in here for the draw. Now, if I was to pick one team, I would pick Monaleen, but I think the 𝘕𝘱 could have something up their sleeve here. Monaleen, I don't think have the hurlers, which would have been crucial to them last year. Stuttered past Ballylanders, so it's kind of which Monaleen will we see? If Monaleen play to 85-90%, I think they'll have enough. But if they don't, I think the 𝘕𝘱 could upset them here. So I'm going to go with a draw in that one, Matt. Next up, Galtee Gales and 𝘠𝘪 is 4:30 on Saturday in Kilmallock. It was the semi-final in 21, I think, Matt. 𝘠𝘪 were relatively comfortable, and I think they'll be relatively comfortable again. I think I'm going to go for a 4-point win for 𝘠𝘪. As we said, they just know how to get the job done in the group stages of the Limerick Senior Championship, and so often in the knockout stages, they're down a couple of bodies. I know Mark Connolly is away. Oren Collins picked up a bad injury. Best wishes to him. And Galtee are a good side, but I just think 𝘠𝘪's experience will pull them through here.
Yeah, I've seen the Gales. I saw the Gales actually in both games. They played Ballylanders in the first round, and they won by a point. And they played a team from West Limerick in round 2, and they were well beaten. I noticed you cock your head there when I said that, but 𝘠𝘪 have 2 wins. 2 wins from 2. Now they met in the semi-final. Ballysteen were the team from the West, by the way. Jack, before you start complaining. 𝘠𝘪 have 2 wins. Typical 𝘠𝘪, like they dug it out against Monaleen. They were much more impressive against the 𝘕𝘱. All the pointers are towards 𝘠𝘪, and but I think this one could be tight, Jack. I'm going for 𝘠𝘪 by just 3.
Just 3. Just kind of an experience thing to get them over the line.
Yeah, because I'm going for them because they're 𝘠𝘪.
Yeah,
but the Gales the Gales will come with all guns blazing, because they will want to exercise the defeat to Ballysteen in the second round, and they'll want to recapture the form that they showed in beating Ballylanders, and I think that they're quite capable of putting it up to 𝘠𝘪, and whether it will be enough or not, I don't know. I think they'll probably fall a little bit short, but certainly, to me, it wouldn't be a huge upset if the Gales won now. That's what it wouldn't. But
yeah,
at this remove, I'm going for 𝘠𝘪 by 3, Jack.
Yeah, I think it would be a shock if Galtee Gales won, but I think it'd be more shocking if 𝘠𝘪 hammered them. So I'm going to go with 4 points. And then finally, we have the Treaty Talk derby that we seem to get every year. Ballylanders versus Ballysteen at 5 o'clock on Saturday in Ballygran. We know where both of us are going to go on this one, but it's a fixture that seems to go back and forth, Matt, every year. If Landers in one year, Ballysteen in the other, and it seems to be vice versa. I don't know. Has any team picked up 2 wins in a row in the last 7 or 8 years in this fixture?
Jack, you're setting me up now. We know who won last year, so you're telling me the Ballylanders are going to win. And I'm telling you now, before we discuss the match, I'm going for Ballylanders by 2.
Ballylanders by 2. Well, I'll name my colours to the mast as well, and I'll say Ballysteen to win by 3. But go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. Look. Bally have had a tough time in so far as like that they survived last year only on the playoff victory over Galway. Now, I saw him in the game against 𝘕𝘰𝘷𝘦𝘬𝘭𝘴, and like they were unlucky they didn't get something out of it, Jack, because they led going down the home straight, and 𝘕𝘰𝘷𝘦𝘬𝑠 kicked 3 points just to nick it by a point. And like Ballylanders have lost their 2 games, Jack, by a total of 3 points. They've lost by 1 point to the 𝘕𝘰𝘷𝘦𝘬𝑠. They've lost by 2 points to Monaleen, and should have won the Monaleen game. Could have won both games, I'm saying. We could be talking about a different narrative. We could be talking about Ballylanders on 4 points instead of on no points.
Yeah.
But it's going to be difficult. Like Ballysteen, following, I suppose it was a bit of a shock defeat in the first round to Napier-Street. I was impressed with Ballysteen in the second round, even though you're a selector and all that. But I thought they were impressive in the way that they went about their business against 𝘕𝘰𝘷𝘦𝘬𝑠. And but having said that, I think Ballylanders' need is the greater on this occasion. And like yourself, I'm sort of mindful of the history that's between the clubs and the close contests, and it kind of going from one side to the other. And I've a hunch that Bally are going to win this one, and I think it's going to be close, but I think Bally will win it by 2 points. Ballylanders, that is.
Yeah, well, Bally will win. It'll depend if Landers or Steen. But yeah, no, Ballylanders, to be fair, probably should have points on the board. Should have beat it there last year, but it's all about who's winning at the final whistle when Mike Sexton blows the whistle. Who's leading. We're obviously hoping for our own clubs to win, but it should be an interesting game. And there's a good few intriguing clashes, as we said there, Matt. It's a pity you can't get to all of them, but there's some really exciting games to look forward to in the senior championship. Obviously, a load of games in the intermediate, Premier, Junior, and Junior as well. And we will, as we get further into championship and permutations come clear, we will get into all those games. But for now, we'll just have to stay looking at the top tier of games. But those are our predictions for round 5. We are approaching now. We just have over 70 minutes on the clock there, Matt. I think that's all for today that we had to go through. I'm just wondering, is there anything else? This is obviously the first week in a long time we've had no guest. I'm hoping people enjoyed the guests, and we will have them back soon. But we just need a time, just the two of us, to get back on track with everything that's going on in the club championships and the ladies' final and everything. But Matt, anything else before we go? Any other business? Anything you need to mention?
No, but the Camogie Championships have had 2 rounds, I think, and the football championship is about to start this weekend. So obviously we'll be looking at them in the weeks to come, Jack. It's worth noting,
Yeah, definitely. There's so much more now that the inter-county season is over. There's so much club action to come, so much exciting club action to come. So stay tuned for all that. And again, a big thank you to all the guests that have been on for the last 3 to 4 months. Really appreciate it. Really good feedback. For anyone that's still with us now after the hour and 12, I will ask you, as always, just if you're on YouTube and you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe, hit that bell. Just does a lot for the algorithm, helps spread the message. There's an awful lot of people watching that aren't subscribed. If you don't have a channel, that's okay. But if you do, just press the subscribe button. It means a lot. And like the video. The same on Facebook and Twitter. Let's share the message and support Limerick GA wherever you are across the world. I know there's a lot of people around the world listening, so we do appreciate all that. And anyone that comes up to us in the street and says that we're doing a good job or that our predictions are terrible or whatever you want to say, it's really much appreciated. But I think for now, a thank you to you as always for listening. A big thank you to Matt for his contribution as always. Best luck to all the teams playing this weekend, especially Ballysteen. I know you will say it for Ballylanders, but thank you as always. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Yeah, stay tuned as always as we bring you a weekly podcast from Limerick GA. But for now, it's over now for us. Thank you, Matt, and we'll talk again soon.
The impression the game you get out of it, what you put into, is like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, 𝘕𝘰𝘷𝘦𝘭𝘴 to do that to 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘭𝘴. He deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the 𝘠𝘰𝘷𝘦𝘭𝑴 today. 𝘠𝘰𝘷𝘦, made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘭𝘴, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left?
no sympathy in this game for anybody.